One of the very first things to consider when creating a culture is how do the members of that culture trace their descent, and how do they change their living arrangements when they get married? Do they change them at all? There's a bunch of different options you can choose from. Systems of descent can be divided into cognatic and unilineal. The first one of the two can be divided into kindreds, stocks, and ramages. The first one of these is probably the one you know best. In this system, you trace your descent through both of your parents and all your grandparents, and then back down to everyone who shares your ancestry, with the entire group forming a kindred. Then we have a stock. You take an ancestor, and you go down the family tree through both the male and female lines. All the descendants of that ancestor form a stock. And finally, we have the ramage, where your kin are select members from your father's or your mother's side, and a spouse could choose to join the ramage of the person they married. Over on the unilineal side, we have systems that are patrilineal, matrilineal, and dual. In a patrilineal system, you trace your descent through the male line. In a matrilineal one, you trace descent through the female line. And in a dual system, both are combined. There you might wonder, how is a dual unilineal system different from a cognatic one? Let's say that your maternal grandmother owns a piece of property and she wants to pass it on to one of her grandchildren. In both a kindred system and a stock system, all of her grandkids are eligible, regardless of whether they are the children of her daughter or of her son. But in a dual unilineal system, that is not the case. She can pass her piece of property down the female line, and the female line only. Your maternal cousins trace their male line through the father's side of the family, and they cannot inherit from their paternal grandmother. In a ramage, some lines of inheritance could be closed as well, but it has nothing to do with gender, so it's a different sort of system. We've covered descent, now on to residence. We have 6 main options. First is neolocal residence, where a couple gets married and then they live together. They have their children, and when those get married, they move away and form their own nuclear families. This is a system common in modern industrialized societies and among hunter-gatherers because it allows for mobility. In a hunter-gatherer society, families move to where the food is, and in an industrialized society they move to where the jobs are. And the nuclear family is the smallest possible mobile family unit, so that's something to keep in mind when world building. Next is patrilocal residence, where a wife moves in to live with a husband and his family. Their daughter will move out when she gets married, but their son will stay. This gets coupled with patrilineal descent a lot, but is very common with cognatic descent as well. Next, matrilocal residence. A husband moves in to live with his wife and her family. Their son will move out when he gets married, but their daughter will stay. Every society that has this as a rule is matrilineal, but you might be able to justify it in other ways when world building. Next, ambilocal. The newly married couple decide on whether the wife is moving in with her husband's family or the husband is moving in with his wife's family. They might even skip around from one family to another, together with their children. Next, natalocal residence. A man and a woman get married, but both remain in their mother's households and simply opt for regular nightly visits instead. This is always coupled with a matrilineal society, because in this arrangement the children live with their mother, so every matrilineage lives under the same roof. But in a world-building context, you could justify a reversal of this, where the children are raised by the father's family and the entirety of every patrilineage is under the same roof. And finally, we have avunculocal residence. The wife moves in to live with her husband. When their children grow up, the daughter gets married and moves away to live with her husband, and the son moves away to live with his maternal uncle. This results in households with granduncles, uncles, and nephews all living together with their wives, and with any young children that might still be around. It keeps all adult men of the same matrilineage under the same roof, so it's always coupled with a matrilineal society. You could reverse it for a patrilineal system, but you would need a good excuse for why you are specifically keeping women of the same patrilineage together. The reason why it happens in matrilineal societies is because those often feature men owning all the property, but it gets transmitted to them through the female line. So keeping granduncles, uncles and nephews together means keeping the heirs to the same piece of property in the same house. So the reverse would be women owning everything, but inheriting it through the paternal line, which you maybe could justify. In any case, looking at societies I've created over the years, I have never used some of these residence patterns, nor have I ever thought of dual unilineal systems of descent or of ramages, so that's something to play around with in the future.